"Ma'am, I need you to move to economy class. This seat is reserved exclusively for our platinum members." At 30,000 feet above Chicago, Olivia Bennett sat in 2A, intently reviewing the quarterly report on her tablet. The Wall Street Journal lay folded beside her coffee. A blonde flight attendant approached with a practiced smile. "I'm sorry, but you need to pack up your belongings now." Olivia looked up calmly. Her boarding pass clearly showed she'd bought a first-class ticket 3 weeks ago. The attendant's smile faltered when Olivia didn't immediately comply. Around them, passengers began to pay attention, phones surfacing from pockets. A woman in 3B started live streaming. Drama is unfolding right here in first class. Olivia closed her tablet, set her coffee down, her expression composed and unreadable. Have you ever been dismissed before anyone even knew who you really are? Olivia Bennett, a black woman exuding power and confidence. At 45, she was renowned not only for her extraordinary business acumen, but also for her steadfast leadership that had elevated Bennett Global to international prominence. And she owned the luxury airline SkyFirst Airlines. Dressed in a sleek business dress, her glossy black hair draping over her shoulders, Olivia was fully absorbed in the financial report displayed on her tablet. She furrowed her brow, annotating key points, completely immersed in strategic thought. Suddenly, a tall, slender figure with golden hair appeared, breaking Olivia's focus. It was Jessica Harris, a young flight attendant whose polite smile betrayed an unusual nervousness. Jessica inhaled deeply and spoke softly, though tension crept into her voice. "I'm sorry, Miss Bennett, but you have to move to economy class. This seat must be given to a special passenger, Mr. John Davidson. He has a medical requirement that necessitates this seat." Olivia slowly raised her head, her gaze sharp yet calm, studying Jessica's face before replying in a gentle but resolute tone. "I understand. However, per airline protocol, could you please provide concrete evidence of that passenger's special medical condition? I believe this information needs to be properly verified, correct?" Jessica tensed, clearly thrown off. She bit her lip, scanned the cabin as if seeking backup, then returned to Olivia with a forced smile. "I'm very sorry, Miss Bennett, but this is Mr. Davidson's request. He's one of our VIP passengers, and I'm afraid we can't disclose personal medical information. Please understand and cooperate." Nearby, passengers leaned in, exchanging curious glances. A tense hush settled over the once quiet first-class cabin. Olivia calmly folded her tablet and placed it on her tray table. She adjusted her posture and met Jessica's anxious blue eyes. In a soft yet commanding voice, Olivia enunciated each word. "I am more than willing to cooperate and assist if the request is reasonable and properly substantiated. However, if this is merely a personal priority request without valid proof, then I'm afraid I cannot give up this seat." At that moment, Jessica felt the latent strength in Olivia's composed demeanor. Inside, the young attendant's worry surged. She realized she had challenged the wrong person, and now there was no easy escape. At the end of the aisle, the tall figure of John Davidson appeared, his arrogant confidence palpable as he glanced contemptuously at Olivia. Meanwhile, in the seat beside, a young woman named Sarah Mitchell discreetly pulled out her phone and began live streaming the scene. Whispering into her phone with an excited yet anxious tone, Sarah said, "Everyone, something big is happening. A black woman in a VIP seat is being forced to give it up to a wealthy white man. I don't know what's going on, but this is definitely unusual." Olivia and Jessica locked eyes in a silent, high-stakes standoff, while thousands of viewers on Sarah's live stream bombarded the comments, ready to turn this into an unpredictable media storm. As the tension in first class stretched tighter and tighter, like a drawn bowstring, curious, Judging glances shifted toward Olivia and Jessica. Then a male voice rang out, clear and forceful, abruptly cutting into their exchange. "What's going on here, Jessica?" It was Brad Cooper, the lead flight attendant with over 20 years on the job. Towering and broad-shouldered, with neatly cropped black hair, he exuded the overconfidence of someone used to running the show. Brad shot Olivia a quick, assessing look, his steel-gray eyes glimmering with a hint of covert contempt, before turning back to Jessica, as if demanding an explanation. Jessica let out a soft breath, relieved by the timely backup. Her voice still trembled, though less so. "Mr. Cooper, Miss Bennett is refusing to give up her seat for Mr. Davidson, even though I explained this is a special medical case. She insists on proof, and we're not permitted to disclose." Brad immediately raised a hand to cut her off. His lips pressed into a thin line, and his gaze fixed coldly on Olivia with a reprimanding arrogance, abandoning any pretense of customer service courtesy. "Ma'am, we are under no obligation to share any passenger's private information with you. Mr. Davidson is a VIP client of Sky First Airlines. He has absolute priority. So please relinquish your seat immediately to avoid inconveniencing the other passengers." Brad deliberately stressed absolute priority, speaking loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear, implying that Olivia was meddling with truly important people. Olivia, however, remained unfazed. Her eyes held a serene calm, as though she'd grown accustomed to such injustices. "Thank you for clarifying your stance," Olivia replied slowly, her tone gentle yet commanding. "But I still haven't been given a valid reason. I have no objection to accommodating any passenger with a genuine medical need, but I do require reasonable proof. That's explicitly stated in Sky First Airlines' service policy, which I'm sure you know well." Brad narrowed his eyes and let a cold, mocking smile curl at his lips. With his years of experience, he was seldom challenged by a passenger, especially not by a black woman whom he clearly deemed less important than a premium client like Davidson. Brad took a deliberate step forward, using his height to intimidate. "Miss Bennett, let me make this crystal clear. You can continue to be difficult here, but I'm afraid that once we land, this little stunt will cost you far more than you realize. We're trying to resolve this politely. I suggest you cooperate now." Brad's thinly veiled threat sent a ripple of shock through the cabin. Whispers rose, and passengers exchanged worried, outraged looks. Olivia, by contrast, didn't flinch. She slowly opened her handbag, retrieved a small leather notebook and a high-end fountain pen, then quietly smiled and met Brad's gaze. "If you insist this decision is correct and aligns with Sky First Airlines policy, please provide your full name and employee ID so I can document everything accurately. I believe that's a right any passenger has when they're dissatisfied with the service." Brad's expression flickered, a flash of unease crossing his gray eyes before he masked it with haughty pride. "Name's Brad Cooper, lead flight attendant, employee ID 47,932, and this is Jessica Harris, employee ID 62,785. If you'd like to file a complaint, be my guest." He spoke defiantly, unaware that he'd just stepped onto a dangerously slippery slope. Meanwhile, in the next seat, Sarah Mitchell, a young passenger with softly curled brown hair and sharp white eyes, swiftly aimed her phone's camera at Olivia, Brad, and Jessica. Her voice, trembling with tension yet crystal clear on the live stream, announced, "Guys, this is getting intense. They just refused to show any medical proof and were super disrespectful to that black passenger. I don't know what's happening, but I'm sure this is serious racial discrimination." In an instant, Sarah's live stream ignited across social media, jumping from a few hundred viewers to thousands, then tens of thousands in mere minutes. Angry demands for justice and urgent questions about racial bias flooded the chat. No one on the plane, not even Brad or Jessica, could have predicted that, by pressuring Olivia, they'd just walked straight into a media firestorm with consequences beyond imagination. But for Olivia, who preserved her unshakable calm, this was only the beginning. Sarah's livestream quickly turned the silent standoff aboard SkyFirst Airlines into the focus of thousands outside. Inside the cabin, passengers began whispering and shooting indignant looks at Olivia. The atmosphere, once calm at takeoff, had become stiflingly tense, as if ready to erupt at any moment. Just then, a powerful male voice rang out from the front of the cabin. "How long is this going to take to resolve?" John Davidson strode forward, his every step dripping with self-satisfaction. His silver hair was immaculately styled, and his tailored designer suit only underscored his wealth. Ignoring the annoyed glances of other passengers, he stopped before Brad, cast a condescending look at Olivia, and continued in a cold, mocking tone. "I thought SkyFirst Airlines was professional enough not to debate for this long, just to secure a seat already reserved for someone more important. Are we really going to delay the flight over a few words from a nobody?" His voice carried clearly through first class, deliberately emphasizing someone more important, and his icy gaze challenged Olivia directly. A heavy silence fell over the cabin, making the tension almost tangible. Brad immediately pivoted to Davidson, adopting an exaggeratedly deferential tone. "Mr. Davidson, we're doing everything we can to resolve this quickly. Please bear with us a little longer. This will be settled immediately." Jessica jumped in beside him, desperate to placate Davidson. "Yes, sir, we sincerely apologize for the inconvenience. I promise we'll have this sorted out right away." The blatant favoritism shown to Davidson drew sharp frowns from the surrounding passengers. They exchanged looks of clear displeasure. This was no longer about a medical issue or a seat assignment, but a flagrant injustice unfolding in real time. Davidson then turned back to Olivia, his deep blue eyes gleaming with open contempt. In a low, venomous voice, he sneered, "Listen, I don't know who you are or what you do, but let me make one thing clear. This seat was never meant for people like you. You should know your place and stop making trouble." His words were like a dagger, freezing the cabin in stunned silence. A middle-aged passenger cleared his throat in disapproval, while others shook their heads in visible outrage. Yet Brad and Jessica pretended not to hear the slur, their eyes locked on Davidson in submission. Olivia remained perfectly still for a moment, her breathing calm, her gaze unwavering as she met Davidson's stare. Externally, her expression was composed and serene. Internally, she'd already made her decision. This was no mere dispute over a seat. It was about dignity and respect. Having endured injustices before, Olivia knew real change couldn't be driven by a momentary outburst. She rose gracefully, smoothed her elegant dress, and addressed Davidson in a calm, polite voice, each word charged with quiet authority. "Mr. Davidson, I'm truly sorry you view this situation this way. I would gladly move to economy if the request were reasonable and properly substantiated. But I believe you, and the airline, must understand that none of us should be judged by our appearance or our race." Her words rang out clearly in the hushed cabin, striking at the conscience of every witness. No longer mere bystanders, the passengers had become involuntary witnesses to a scene they never imagined they'd see in the 21st century. Beside her, Sarah Mitchell continued to livestream, her voice trembling yet impassioned as viewers surged and comments flooded in. "Everyone, this is outrageous. That passenger just openly insulted this black woman in front of us. This is blatant racial discrimination. Share this video and demand justice for her." Inside the plane, Olivia calmly gathered her documents and placed them into her designer leather bag. Despite the insult, her face remained composed. She knew the real battle wasn't happening here at 30,000 feet. It was waiting for her on the ground, where she would not only seek justice for herself, but for all who'd suffered such injustice. And with her power and unwavering determination, Olivia Bennett would make sure everyone who had crossed her understood there are lines they must never cross. The air in the cabin seemed to stand still as Olivia rose gracefully, slipping her tailored black blazer onto her shoulders. Every eye turned toward her, a mixture of astonishment and regret on their faces. Olivia's slow, deliberate movements radiated poise and authority, an elegant contrast to Davidson's arrogance and injustice. "I will move as you requested," Olivia announced clearly, her voice just loud enough for the cabin to hear. "Not because I accept this unfairness, but because I believe there's a more appropriate place to address this matter properly." Brad and Jessica exchanged knowing glances, their expressions briefly triumphant as though they'd won a small battle. Davidson smirked coldly, openly pleased that Olivia had relented. In his mind, this simply proved that money and status still trump everything else. Around them, first-class passengers couldn't hide their disappointment. Many cast sympathetic, indignant looks at Olivia. Sarah Mitchell continued filming, her voice hushed yet impassioned into her phone. "Everyone, she's actually getting up to give up her seat. Can you believe this? It's 2024. How is this still happening?" Olivia walked down the aisle with quiet dignity, moving toward economy class without a backward glance or a word of resentment. Her stride was firm and composed, leaving a powerful impression on everyone watching. Once settled into her smaller seat deep in economy, Olivia opened her personal laptop. The screen's glow illuminated her determined expression. With a few keystrokes, she logged into Sky First Airlines' secure internal system. The familiar interface appeared, emblazoned with the airline's logo and the heading, "Sky First Airlines, Board of Directors Internal System." In that moment, Olivia Bennett's true identity began to emerge. She was not just any passenger. She was the chairwoman of the board and CEO of Sky First Airlines, wielding ultimate authority over the company. Calmly, she navigated to the anti-discrimination policy section. Bold, unambiguous text reaffirmed the core principles she herself had authored. Any Sky First Airlines employee who engages in discriminatory conduct based on race, gender, religion, or background will face immediate disciplinary action up to and including termination. Next, Olivia opened the employee records window. She captured screenshots of Brad Cooper's and Jessica Harris's profiles, their employee IDs, work history, and performance reviews, and archived the in-flight camera footage documenting the entire incident. Each step was measured and professional, no haste, no emotional reaction. A notification popped up from her executive assistant. "Ms. Bennett, we've been alerted to a social media live stream about today's incident on your flight. The communications team has logged it and is monitoring closely. Do you have any special instructions?" Olivia's fingers flew over the keyboard as she replied succinctly, like a general issuing orders before battle. "Schedule an emergency board meeting as soon as I land. Involve legal and communications immediately. We must address today's events clearly, publicly, and thoroughly." She closed her laptop, her eyes shining with resolute purpose. There was no anger in her, no bitterness, only a fierce determination to rectify a systemic flaw that had long smoldered beneath the glossy surface of Sky First Airlines. Outside, the plane continued to glide smoothly through layers of white clouds. But Olivia knew that a far greater storm was brewing on the ground, one that would reshape the fate of those who had wronged her, and serve as an unforgettable lesson to anyone who dared to underestimate another's dignity. While Olivia quietly and meticulously prepared her next moves in her cramped economy seat, halfway around the world, a world held in the palms of millions, Sarah Mitchell's live stream was sending shockwaves beyond imagination. Just minutes after Sarah posted the video, angry and indignant messages began flooding every major social media platform. Sky First racism went viral on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, capturing the attention of millions. Clear images of the arrogant, blatant injustice by Brad Cooper, Jessica Harris, and especially John Davidson, the wealthy white man in power, were widely shared, igniting an unprecedented wave of outrage. Comments poured in, "It's unbelievable that such blatant racism still exists in 2024. Boycott Sky First Airlines. We can't support an airline that discriminates against passengers based on their skin color. That woman was far more polite than they deserve. They should be ashamed of themselves." The volume of posts multiplied exponentially, creating a domino effect so powerful it could not be ignored. In less than an hour, major U.S. media outlets, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and The Washington Post, jumped on the story, turning the Sky First Airlines incident into the nation's hottest topic. Provocative headlines splashed across screens everywhere. CNN breaking news. Black female CEO forced out of first-class seat for white. Businessman. Washington Post. Blatant racism in the skies. What is Sky First Airlines thinking? Back in first class, Brad Cooper watched his phone buzz nonstop. He frowned as he read messages from colleagues, friends, even family. Opening a text from his closest friend, Tim Walker, Brad's face went pale. "Brad, what the hell are you doing? Social media is going crazy over that video of you and Jessica. This is serious. The company's legal team is already on it. Brace yourself." He looked at Jessica, whose initial confidence had vanished. She rushed to him, voice trembling. "Brad, have you seen the news? What are we going to do? This is spiraling out of control." Brad inhaled sharply, trying to steady himself, though his tension was obvious. He attempted reassurance, voice shaky. "Calm down, Jess. Stuff like this usually blows over. We followed procedure, right? They can't do anything to us." Yet deep down, Brad felt this was different. The exploding hashtag and media frenzy sparked a fear he couldn't shake, especially since he had no idea who the woman was that he'd insulted so arrogantly. Meanwhile, John Davidson remained blissfully unaware. He sipped the champagne served in Olivia's vacated VIP seat, scrolling through news headlines. He smirked, thinking, "What does that mob online know about real power? They just shout, then it all dies down." Down in economy, Olivia monitored the social media uproar on her phone, her face betraying no emotion. Her gaze was cold but calculating, knowing the moment had come for her airline to face fundamental change. Quietly, she sent one final message to her assistant. "Prepare for a major press conference the moment we land. I will personally address this incident publicly. We must make it abundantly clear that Sky First Airlines will never tolerate such discrimination." She set her phone down and gazed out at the deep blue sky and drifting white clouds. Beneath her composed exterior lay a clear, resolute plan. Olivia Bennett, the powerful CEO of Bennett Global, was ready to confront the storm of public opinion, turning the pain and personal affront she'd endured into an opportunity for sweeping reform, a wave sure to wash away every prejudice and injustice embedded in the very company she'd built. The moment the wheels of the Sky First Airlines jet gently kissed the runway at Los Angeles International Airport, Olivia stole a glance through the small window. The golden-orange glow of sunset stretched across the tarmac, yet there was no hint of relaxation in her eyes. Instead, a cold resolve had settled there, clearer and sharper than ever. As soon as the seatbelt sign clicked off, Olivia rose swiftly, her hands deftly smoothing her outfit. Her phone buzzed with a message. Emergency meeting ready in Conference Room 5, Gate 47. Ground Manager Carlos Rivera will meet you as soon as you deplane. Navigating past passengers still buzzing about the incident, Olivia made her way to the jet bridge. Stepping off the plane, she found Carlos Rivera waiting, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair and a stern, almost military bearing. "Ms. Bennett, I'm Carlos Rivera, Sky First Airlines Ground Operations Manager at LAX," he said, professional but clearly unsettled. "Your assistant asked me to meet you immediately." Olivia nodded once, produced a business card from her bag, and handed it to him. His eyes flicked to the card, and in an instant, his composed facade crumbled. The card read, "Olivia Bennett, Chairwoman and CEO, Sky First Airlines, Bennett Global." Carlos looked up, horror in his eyes. I'm so sorry, Miss Bennett. I had no idea you are the airline's CEO. Please believe me, we had no notion how serious the situation on board was." Olivia's gaze remained cool. She offered a brief nod. "Mr. Rivera, we'll address everything in the meeting now. I expect the entire flight crew, especially Flight Attendant Brad Cooper and Flight Attendant Jessica Harris, to attend. They must explain their actions directly to the executive board and our legal team." Meanwhile, Jessica and Brad disembarked, tense and scanning the crowd. Exiting the jet bridge, they immediately spotted Olivia beside Carlos. Witnessing that serious exchange sent Jessica's heart racing. "Brad, look, she's talking with the ground manager. Why?" Jessica whispered, panic in her voice. Brad froze, eyes darting between Olivia and Carlos. Confusion overwhelmed him. Only now did he grasp that they might have committed a grievous error. Moments later, they entered Conference Room 5 at Gate 47, the air heavy as lead. Olivia sat at the head of the table, flanked by legal counsel and senior executives. Carlos stood at her side, expression grave. Brad cleared his throat, voice trembling despite his attempt at calm. "Miss Bennett, I'm sorry, I don't understand. It was just a seating issue. We didn't think it warranted senior-level intervention." Olivia opened her laptop and tilted the screen toward them, playing the live stream footage from Sarah Mitchell. Everyone in the room saw Brad's, Jessica's, and Davidson's conduct displayed in stark clarity. Olivia spoke slowly, each word resonating with authority. "This isn't merely about seat assignments. It's about the ethics and anti-discrimination policies of Sky First Airlines. Your actions today fly in the face of the principles and values I've built this company upon. You've made us the subject of nationwide outrage." Jessica slumped in her chair, pale and defeated. Brad stammered, "We were just following a long-standing passenger's special request. We never intended to discriminate." Olivia cut him off with an icy stare. "A special request doesn't override fairness and human dignity, especially not at Sky First Airlines, the airline I've dedicated my life to building on those very values." Silence fell, broken only by their ragged breaths as they realized the enormity of their mistake. Olivia locked eyes with them, unyielding. "This meeting won't just address your misconduct. It marks the first step in sending a clear message. We will never tolerate discrimination. You two will be the living proof of that message." Despair washed over Jessica and Brad as they grasped the gravity of what they'd done. But for Olivia Bennett, CEO of SkyFirst Airlines, the moment for decisive action had arrived to defend her own dignity and to safeguard the core values of the airline she leads. The tension in Conference Room 5 at Gate 47 was palpable as Olivia quietly rose from the chair at the head of the table. Her gaze swept over Jessica and Brad's ashen faces, then fixed on Davidson, who sat there still radiating arrogance. The room fell into an almost suffocating silence before she spoke, her voice calm but commanding. "We cannot resolve this issue behind closed doors. I believe everyone here, especially the passengers who witnessed the incident firsthand, deserves a clear explanation from you." Turning to Carlos Rivera, her eyes steely. "Mr. Rivera, I want you to arrange an immediate public meeting with the passengers in the Gate 47 waiting area. Make sure there are microphones and speakers set up, and please let them know that I will address this personally." Carlos nodded without hesitation, still visibly shaken by the gravity of the situation. Within minutes, word of the public meeting had spread throughout the terminal, and hundreds of passengers from the flight began gathering near Gate 47. Sarah Mitchell, the young woman who had first live-streamed the cabin dispute, flipped her phone back on and started streaming the event live again, already drawing tens of thousands of viewers in mere minutes. Olivia stepped forward before the crowd, her expression sharp yet composed, meeting each passenger's eyes and Sarah's camera with equal clarity. "First, I offer my sincerest apologies to all of you for the uncomfortable experience on your flight. My name is Olivia Bennett, Chairwoman and CEO of SkyFirst Airlines. I want you to know that our airline absolutely does not tolerate any acts of discrimination, no matter who commits them." A ripple of astonishment swept through the crowd as passengers realized the woman they'd seen treated so unjustly was the airline's own CEO. Olivia turned to Jessica and Brad, her tone cool steel. "Jessica Harris, Brad Cooper, please explain to all these passengers and the tens of thousands watching this live stream why you chose to force me from my seat in such a disrespectful and unfair manner." Jessica went pale, trembling as she raised the microphone, but no words came out. Brad struggled to speak, voice stammering in search of an excuse. We truly didn't mean to do that. We were following Mr. Davidson's request. We thought it was the right call at the time." Davidson, standing nearby, scowled at the interruption before swaggering forward. He snatched the microphone from Brad and sneered at Olivia. "Miss Bennett, must you really turn this into such a spectacle? This is nothing but a minor inconvenience. I paid top dollar to fly this airline. Clearly, my privileges should come before some others." His arrogant words only deepened the divide between him and the crowd. Passengers immediately erupted into boos and shouts of protest. "Aren't you ashamed? Money doesn't justify racism. SkyFirst should ban people like you forever." Olivia lifted a hand, and the crowd fell silent again. She addressed Davidson with unwavering resolve. "Mr. Davidson, it's unfortunate you still fail to grasp the seriousness of your actions. At SkyFirst Airlines, all passengers are equal and deserve respect. No one's priority exceeds another's based on skin color or status. Your behavior and words today insult everything this airline stands for." She paused to let her words resonate, then continued with even greater determination. "I am calling an emergency board of directors meeting tonight to address this issue comprehensively. We will review the responsibility of every individual involved and enforce the strictest disciplinary measures. Again, I apologize to all passengers for this experience and vow to use every power I have to ensure nothing like this ever happens again." A roar of applause and cheers rose from the passengers, mingled with heartfelt comments flying across Sarah Mitchell's livestream. Now that's real leadership. Go, Miss Bennett. Let's end these prejudices. Davidson stood frozen, his smug expression giving way to confusion. Jessica and Brad were left sinking into despair, finally realizing their careers and reputations at SkyFirst Airlines had just come to an abrupt end. Olivia stepped away from the podium, her eyes sweeping over the crowd with genuine gratitude. There was no anger left in her, only an unwavering resolve to protect the fundamental values she championed. Ahead lay tonight's board meeting, one that would decide not only the fate of those involved, but the future direction of SkyFirst Airlines itself. The supportive applause from the passengers had barely died down when Olivia turned and stepped away from the crowd, her expression growing colder and more resolute than ever. She knew full well that the public confrontation had only been the opening salvo in a far more consequential battle, an emergency meeting with the board of directors at SkyFirst Airlines headquarters. 1 hour later, the airline's large conference room at LAX was opened. Bright, white neon lights revealed the faces of senior executives, the legal team, and department heads. Olivia sat at the center of a long walnut conference table. To her right was Chief Counsel Rebecca Parker, known for her incisive intellect and steely demeanor, with a short black bob and tortoiseshell glasses. Rebecca's gaze was as icy as ever, radiating formidable legal authority. Across the table sat Brad Cooper and Jessica Harris, motionless and pale, their eyes hollow with the dawning realization of the consequences they faced. John Davidson occupied the far corner, legs crossed and chin raised, still radiating the arrogance of someone convinced of his own untouchability. Olivia cleared her throat and looked directly at all three of them with absolute gravity before speaking. Before we begin, I want everyone here to understand one crucial fact. SkyFirst Airlines is more than just an airline. It stands for fairness, respect, and equality. Today, those core values were egregiously trampled by the individuals seated before us. She opened her laptop, pivoted the screen toward the board, and replayed the live stream footage captured by Sarah Mitchell. In vivid detail, the room watched the insulting words, overt bias, and demeaning conduct of Brad, Jessica, and Davidson. A hush fell over the room as board members exchanged stunned, outraged glances. When the clip ended, Rebecca Parker rose immediately, sliding a thick dossier across the table. Her voice rang out, cold and precise. These actions not only violate our company's internal policies, but also contravene the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Under that law, any discrimination based on race, color, ethnicity, or national origin is illegal, especially in a public service environment such as commercial aviation. She turned first to Brad and Jessica, then addressed Davidson. Mr. Cooper, Ms. Harris, and Mr. Davidson, you each directly participated in creating a hostile, discriminatory environment toward a passenger, namely Ms. Bennett, the CEO of this airline. You now face serious legal ramifications and have inflicted severe reputational damage on SkyFirst Airlines. Brad could no longer contain himself and leapt to his feet, voice quavering. Please understand, Ms. Parker, we never intended any racial discrimination. It was a misunderstanding, an unfortunate incident. I ask you to reconsider. Rebecca cut him off with a steely glare. Mr. Cooper, the evidence is unequivocal. This was not a misunderstanding. It was a deliberate preferential treatment of a passenger based on race and social status. Federal law offers no excuse for this behavior. Olivia raised her hand, and the room fell silent once more. She stood and her voice calm yet unmistakable, delivered her final judgment. As chairwoman and CEO of SkyFirst Airlines, I hereby announce that Jessica Harris and Brad Cooper are terminated effective immediately. We will forward a full report of this incident to the Federal Aviation Administration. Neither of you will have any future opportunities in civil aviation." Jessica burst into tears, shoulders shaking, while Brad slumped back into his chair, his face ashen with despair. Olivia paused, then turned her unwavering gaze on Davidson, who still maintained his defiant posture. "And you, Mr. Davidson, effective immediately, you are permanently banned from flying on any SkyFirst Airlines aircraft. Your name will be placed on our no-fly list. This decision upholds the principles and standards we promised to our customers." Davidson sprang to his feet, anger flushing his face. "Miss Bennett, you think you can do this to me? You'll regret this." Olivia met his glare without flinching. "I only regret that today's events ever occurred on my airline. SkyFirst Airlines has no use for customers who disdain the dignity of others." A profound silence enveloped the room after Olivia's declaration. Jessica and Brad sat in shock, fully aware that their careers and futures had just been irrevocably destroyed. Davidson stormed out in fury, the conference room door slamming behind him with a sound of finality. Olivia sat back down, her eyes sweeping the assembled executives as her tone softened yet remained firm. "Let today's incident serve as our most profound lesson. SkyFirst Airlines will never tolerate discrimination. We must ensure nothing like this ever happens again." She closed the dossier with a gentle click, gazed out the window at the steady stream of airplanes taking off and landing, and knew that this was no ordinary meeting. It was the beginning of a renewed, unwavering commitment to protecting the core values of SkyFirst Airlines. The moment the conference room door clicked shut behind the furious figure of John Davidson, Olivia drew in a long, steady breath. Her eyes softened for an instant, but her mind remained heavy with determination. She knew that the decision she'd just made wouldn't stay confined within these four walls. In truth, the real media battle was only just beginning. Less than 2 hours after the meeting adjourned, breaking reports on CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News were all over the SkyFirst Airlines incident. Clear footage of Olivia, Brad, Jessica, and especially Davidson played on endless loops. Headlines flashed provocatively across every national broadcast. CNN: SkyFirst Airlines takes strong action against in-flight racism. CEO Olivia. Bennett steps in. MSNBC: 2 employees fired, wealthy businessman John Davidson banned for life after shocking racism scandal. Fox News: racial discrimination scandal at SkyFirst Airlines sparks nationwide outrage. On Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, the hashtag number SkyFirst. Racism shot to number 1. One trending in the U.S. millions rallied behind Olivia's decisive stance and urged every other airline to follow her lead. This is what real leadership looks like. We need more people like Olivia Bennett to change society. SkyFirst handled this correctly. What will the others do now? Let's all emulate SkyFirst and end this once and for all. Under mounting public pressure, Olivia scheduled a press conference for the very next day at SkyFirst Airlines Los Angeles headquarters. Early that morning, hundreds of reporters from Reuters, the Associated Press, the New York Times, CNN, and more filled the press podium, all waiting for Olivia's appearance. At exactly 9 a.m., Olivia stepped into the bright flood of cameras, her posture both confident and solemn. Flashes popped as she began. "First, let me reaffirm. SkyFirst Airlines will never tolerate discrimination of any kind. We are not merely addressing a single incident. we are launching comprehensive, far-reaching reforms to ensure that no passenger ever endures what I experienced." She then outlined her anti-discrimination overhaul. 1. Mandatory diversity and inclusion training. All SkyFirst employees will complete. Enhanced training programs. 2. Anonymous reporting system. We will implement a secure, confidential hotline and online portal, overseen directly by legal and senior leadership. 3. Independent Oversight Committee. A panel of civil rights experts and representatives from leading human rights organizations will regularly review and audit our policies and practices. I further commit, Olivia continued, to publish our progress on these initiatives every quarter. I will personally answer to the public for every success and every shortcoming. Immediately after the press conference, national media praised Olivia's bold leadership, declaring that SkyFirst had set a new industry standard for combating discrimination. Within hours, major U.S. carriers, Delta Airlines, American Airlines, and United Airlines, issued statements pledging internal investigations and policy reforms modeled on SkyFirst's. Delta Airlines. Delta is committed to a thorough review and immediate implementation of necessary changes to protect every passenger's rights and equality. United Airlines. We applaud SkyFirst's clear, decisive action. United will follow suit and enact similar measures as soon as possible. Meanwhile, in another corner of the media storm, Brad Cooper and Jessica Harris became the focus of fierce public condemnation. Their names and photographs spread across social media, forcing both to shut down their personal accounts under a barrage of daily outrage. John Davidson, in his own rage and dismay, watched as business partners distanced themselves, and his company released a hasty statement dissociating from his racist remarks, yet nothing could salvage his reputation. He became a symbol of arrogance and bigotry, his personal and corporate standing deeply tarnished. Back in her office, Olivia sat quietly, gazing out at the boundless sky beyond the window. She understood that what had just transpired was far more than a personal ordeal. It was a powerful reminder of her and SkyFirst's responsibility to champion a fairer, more civilized society where human dignity is paramount. A faint smile touched her lips as she reflected that, though this upheaval had been tense and painful, it marked the beginning of the future she had always envisioned. A future in which every person, regardless of skin color, background, or status, is treated with equal respect. No sooner had the press conference room doors closed behind her than Olivia refused herself a moment's rest. In her mind, only one clear, unwavering thought remained. Today's words must translate immediately into real action. Her eyes flicked over the breaking news still blinking on her phone screen. But instead of anxiety, she felt a profound sense of responsibility and a fierce determination to overhaul SkyFirst Airlines from the ground up. That very afternoon, an emergency strategy session convened, this time with senior management, IT, and legal. The conference room felt more solemn than ever, all eyes fixed on Olivia as she began to unveil a bold, comprehensive reform plan. We can't wait another day. Starting tomorrow, I want a real-time anti-discrimination reporting system active on every SkyFirst flight. Executives exchanged surprised yet impressed glances. Matthew Roberts, a veteran director, ventured cautiously, "Ms. Bennett, can we implement that so quickly?" Olivia nodded with steely resolve. "Absolutely." I spoke with Tech this morning. Passengers will be able to report any discriminatory behavior directly via our mobile app and the in-seat entertainment screens, even in mid-flight. Those reports will instantly alert legal and senior leadership so we can intervene the moment the plane lands. Board members scribbled notes, confidence in their eyes. Olivia's voice remained clear and purposeful as she continued. Additionally, Sky First Airlines will formally partner with leading human rights organizations, NAACP, Human Rights Watch, and the ACLU, to ensure we keep our anti-discrimination commitments. They will perform independent quarterly audits of our operations and publish the findings so we never lose sight of our obligations. A round of enthusiastic table knocking greeted her announcement. Olivia surveyed her colleagues, her gaze both grave and assured. One more announcement. Beginning today, Sky First Airlines will establish the Sky First Diversity Scholarship, a $500,000 annual fund to support outstanding students of color pursuing aviation careers. I believe this is our best path to investing in a fairer, more diverse future for our industry. The room erupted in heartfelt applause. Everyone understood this was more than symbolism. It was the bedrock of lasting change. Outside, the media storm showed no signs of abating. But unlike before, the harsh, outraged commentary was giving way to messages of support and high expectations for the sweeping reforms Olivia had set in motion. Sky First Airlines isn't just talking. They're taking concrete action. This is the leadership we need. Olivia Bennett is making a real difference. The Diversity Scholarship Fund is huge. Hopefully, other airlines follow suit. Elsewhere, the scandal's wrongdoers continued to reel from the fallout. Jessica Harris and Brad Cooper faced relentless criticism and ostracism from friends, former colleagues, and even family. Brad, once aspiring to climb the aviation ranks, found every door slammed shut. Jessica endured sleepless nights, haunted by the knowledge that one biased decision had obliterated her dreams. John Davidson remained obstinately bitter, but watched helplessly as his reputation lay in tatters. Key business partners withdrew en masse, unwilling to associate with a man now synonymous with arrogance and bigotry. He bitterly realized that his wealth and status could not shield him from the force of public outrage and social justice. Back in the boardroom, Olivia closed the dossier of plans with quiet determination. She looked out the broad window at the constant stream of Sky First jets taking off and landing, connecting the world. She understood that the changes she'd announced would ripple far beyond her airline, shaping the future of the entire aviation industry and perhaps society at large. A gentle smile crossed her face as she reflected. From now on, every Sky First flight would carry more than passengers. It would carry the promise of a better world, where every individual, regardless of skin color or background, is treated with the fairness and respect they deserve. That, she knew, was the greatest victory she could ever achieve, and one worth sacrificing everything to protect. While Sky First Airlines has been steadily rebuilding trust and fairness for millions of passengers around the globe, the lives of those who ignited that scandal have also begun to change in ways they could never have anticipated. Olivia Bennett fully understood that, for change to be truly profound and lasting, it should not only punish wrongdoing but also offer a chance to atone and make amends. Jessica Harris and Brad Cooper, names that once dominated headlines as symbols of prejudice and racism, suddenly found their careers in ruins. In the weeks following the incident, they endured isolation and fierce online backlash. Every time they checked their phones, hundreds of angry comments reminded them of the grave mistakes they had made. Then, one late afternoon, both Jessica and Brad received an email from Olivia Bennett's office. Its brief message contained an opportunity they never expected. Sky First Airlines believes in growth and redemption. You are invited to join a specialized training program on bias awareness and cultural diversity. This is not a guarantee of employment, but rather a chance to prove you can become better people. Reading and rereading that email, Jessica and Brad felt a swirl of shame, regret, and gratitude. After weeks of feeling completely cut off, they finally sensed a spark of hope, and, uncertain of what the future held, they decided to seize it and begin repairing the harm they'd caused. At the same time, John Davidson was enduring the darkest days of his business career. When SkyFirst Airlines, one of his company's largest shareholders, publicly announced the termination of their partnership, Davidson watched contract after contract collapse. Other key partners backed away, fearful that associating with him would tarnish their own reputations. One Monday morning, in the spacious boardroom of Davidson Industries, his advisors laid out the undeniable figures. Millions of dollars in deals evaporated in just days. Confronted with the fallout from his arrogance and racism, Davidson had no choice but to face the consequences. Desperate and with few options left, he called an emergency press conference at his headquarters. In front of a bank of cameras, he bowed his head and issued a public apology. "I want to offer my sincere apologies to Miss Olivia Bennett, to SkyFirst Airlines, and to everyone I have deeply offended. I fully recognize the severity of my actions, and to make amends, I commit to participating in specialized cultural sensitivity and anti-racism training." Although many questioned the sincerity of his apology, the event made one thing clear. Society will no longer tolerate discrimination at any level. Davidson, once convinced that wealth and power could shield him from all consequences, had learned a painful lesson about equality and social justice. In a very different turn of events, Sarah Mitchell, the young woman who'd bravely live-streamed the original incident, also received an email from Olivia Bennett. "Dear Sarah, your courage and commitment to fairness have inspired countless people. SkyFirst Airlines is honored to award you a full diversity scholarship to train as one of our flight attendants. Please continue to spread the message of equity and anti-racism." Filled with joy and pride, Sarah accepted the offer. A few months later, she graduated at the top of her class and became one of SkyFirst's lead flight attendants. Beyond exceptional service, Sarah emerged as an internal speaker on diversity, actively championing anti-racism initiatives and helping the airline reinforce its commitment to inclusivity. Olivia watched these transformations with deep satisfaction. She knew that punishment alone could never be her ultimate goal. What mattered most was creating a society where people could recognize their mistakes, be given the chance to make things right, and grow from the experience. Late one quiet evening, Olivia stood at her office window, gazing at the runway lights flickering against the night sky, each plane carrying dreams, hopes, and a renewed sense of responsibility. She smiled softly, reminded that, however painful, these events would serve as the foundation for genuine, lasting change. The unavoidable consequences faced by Jessica, Brad, and Davidson stood as the strongest reminder that there is no place for discrimination in a modern society, and that everyone must take full responsibility for their actions. 6 months after those seismic events had settled, Olivia Bennett stood at the lectern in the vast auditorium of Harvard Business School, the hallowed institution thousands of top students dream of attending. The hall was packed with eager, hopeful faces, all leaning forward, awaiting the first-hand account from the woman who had shaken an entire industry with uncommon courage and resolve. Soft spotlights bathed Olivia's calm, confident features as she scanned the room, feeling every breath and every gaze upon her. In a voice both gentle and authoritative, she began, "I'm not here today to talk about personal triumphs, but to share the single most important lesson I've learned over the course of my career, a lesson in governance, justice, and social responsibility. These are the values I believe every future leader must uphold." Olivia then recounted the story in full. From the moment she confronted blatant racial discrimination aboard the very airline she ran, to the intense internal struggle to root out systemic bias. She spared no detail, revealing the hardships, the pressures, and the deeply emotional conflicts she faced. When she spoke of Jessica Harris, Brad Cooper, and John Davidson, Olivia made clear that, despite their grievous missteps, she never viewed them as enemies. Instead, she had offered them a chance to learn and grow, trusting in the transformative power of personal change. Pausing thoughtfully, she looked down across the auditorium. One key point I want you to understand today is that true, lasting change never springs from personal vengeance or a momentary surge of anger. Real transformation must begin with systemic reform, a system strong and transparent enough to protect dignity and fairness for everyone, no matter who they are or where they come from. She then detailed the major initiatives SkyFirst Airlines rolled out over the past 6 months. A real-time anti-discrimination reporting system, regular independent audits by leading human rights organizations, and an annual $500,000 scholarship fund for students of color. These reforms had made a profound impact, recognized not only by customers but by the entire aviation industry and society at large. And the results spoke volumes. SkyFirst's brand reputation soared, customer satisfaction hit record highs, and the company's stock rallied. What was once a company under fire had become the gold standard for global aviation. Olivia displayed a chart illustrating the dramatic uptick in both revenue and passenger satisfaction, then concluded with pride. This shows that standing up for what's right, no matter how difficult or daunting, is always the right choice. Justice isn't just an ethical duty, it's also a sustainable, effective business strategy. She went on to share how the so-called antagonists in her story had fared. After completing their bias awareness training, Jessica and Brad now actively share their hard-learned lessons to help others avoid the same pitfalls. Davidson, once dismissive of everyone, underwent a profound, heartfelt transformation as he reassessed his values and attitudes. And Sarah Mitchell, the young woman who nervously live-streamed the original incident, has since become one of SkyFirst's top flight attendants and a powerful advocate in the airline's anti-racism programs, spreading messages of diversity and equality to thousands of passengers every day. As Olivia wrapped up, she met the eyes of each intrigued student and spoke from the heart. You seated here today are the leaders of tomorrow. Remember, your greatest power isn't your rank or your wealth. It's the ability to create positive change in others' lives. None of us is exempt from the responsibility to fight for fairness and kindness in our society. The auditorium erupted in sustained applause. Students rose to their feet, paying deep respect to Olivia's story, a story that transcended a typical business lesson to become a living testament to social responsibility, justice, and humanity. Later, as she stepped out of the Harvard Hall into the cool evening breeze, Olivia felt a profound peace. She knew her actions had done more than transform an airline. They had sparked a ripple of inspiration for countless others to stand up for what's right. Perhaps this was the greatest success Olivia Bennett ever sought, not found in financial statements or corporate titles, but in the powerful, positive change she helped ignite in people's lives around the world. Olivia's story is more than a lesson in fairness, dignity, and courage. It's proof that each of us can drive profound change in society. A timely act, a bold voice against injustice, can lead to outcomes far beyond our expectations, not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us. What do you think of Olivia's actions and how she handled this challenge? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story meaningful and inspiring, please like and share to spread its positive message. And don't forget to subscribe for more moving, insightful stories. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.